They say the valley was abandoned more than a century ago, erased from maps and stories alike, but if you follow the river upstream, where the water runs black and the reeds curl like withered fingers, you will find it waiting, hidden in the mist. At first, you will see only the rooftops, crooked and broken, pushing through the fog like jagged teeth. The village is not supposed to be there. No road leads to it, no records acknowledge its existence, and yet the moment you step into the valley, you will feel the weight of it, as if the ground itself groans beneath the memory of what happened. The story told in hushed whispers says that winter came too early, snow burying the fields, sealing the roads, cutting off every path in or out. The villagers were trapped. At first they rationed, splitting what little food they had, but hunger is cruel, and as the weeks stretched into months, their eyes began to change, hollow and frantic, their hands trembling. Some say they turned on each other, knives slicing not bread but flesh. Others say they prayed, gathering in the chapel, begging for deliverance. But what answered was not God. It was something older, something that had waited under the soil, something that fed on hunger. It promised survival, but the price was eternal. By the time spring came, no one was alive, but the village did not rot, did not collapse. It stayed exactly as it was, frozen in the moment of its death, preserved not by time, but by whatever answered those prayers. And though the villagers were dead, their hunger was not. Elena was not from there. She was an outsider, a hiker with too much curiosity and too little fear, the kind of woman who dismissed warnings as superstition. She had read about the valley in fragments, scraps of old folklore, references scratched out in books as though someone had tried to erase them, but she was drawn to it all the same. The thought of an entire village disappearing fascinated her. She packed her bag, her compass, her maps, and she followed the river upstream. For hours she walked, the air growing colder, her breath hanging in the air, though the season was warm. The deeper she went, the quieter it became. Birds fell silent. The water slowed, thick and dark, and the trees leaned closer, their trunks blackened, their branches clawing over the path. Her phone, fully charged, drained to nothing in minutes, the screen flickering before dying. Her compass spun, the needle twitching wildly, unable to settle. And then the mist rose, curling around her legs, thickening until the world shrank to a pale haze. That was when she saw them, the rooftops, broken, sagging, yet still upright, standing against all reason. The village. She told herself it was just ruins, another abandoned place left to the wilderness. But when she stepped between the first houses, her skin prickled. The air was too cold, heavy, and every breath tasted of ash and iron. The windows of the houses were black, their shutters broken, their doors swollen shut, but she could feel it. The sensation of eyes watching her from behind the walls, peering through cracks and holes. She told herself it was in her head, but the longer she walked, the stronger it became, like a crowd pressing in close. The streets bent in ways that made no sense, looping back on themselves, leading her deeper no matter how she turned. The mist thickened, swallowing the sky, and soon she stood before the chapel at the heart of the village. Its doors gaped open, though no wind stirred them, its bell tower leaning but unbroken. She thought she heard the bell toll, a low, distant note, but when she looked, the rope hung still. She stepped inside. The air was colder still, damp and heavy. And that was when she saw them. The pews were filled. At first, she thought they were statues, mannequins carved from wax, but when she stepped closer, her stomach twisted. They were the villagers. Dozens, maybe hundreds, crammed shoulder to shoulder, their skin pale, their mouths stretched wide, lips torn, teeth broken, eyes glassy but alive. Their bodies did not move, but their eyes. Every single eye turned to follow her as she walked down the aisle, her breath caught, her chest tightening. And then their throats moved, in perfect unison, dry and brittle, and a sound rose, soft at first, then louder, a chant. a language she could not understand, guttural and cracked, yet it vibrated through her bones as if the sound itself carried weight. The floor shook, the altar cracked. A line split down the center of the stone, widening, widening, and from beneath rose a hand, long and blackened, with fingers that curled like talons. Elena stumbled back, but the villagers rose as one. Their joints snapped, their limbs jerked, their mouths tore wider, splitting at the corners, bloodless but raw. The chant grew into a scream. The hand became an arm, then a torso, something pulling itself free. Its skull was crowned with antlers, its chest hollow, its ribs curling outward, and in the hollow where its heart should have been was a knot of mouths, each one whispering, moaning, gnashing teeth. It lifted its head toward her, and the villagers' voices merged into one, speaking through the thing that rose from the altar. Asterisk, stay, feed, become. Asterisk, the chapel doors slammed shut. The windows shattered. The mist pressed against the stained glass until it cracked, spilling pale light into the room. Elena turned to run, but the villagers surged forward. Their hands gripped her arms, her legs cold and merciless. She screamed, but the sound was lost in their chant. They dragged her down the aisle toward the altar, toward the thing that waited. She kicked, clawed, fought, but their grip was iron. Their faces were inches from hers, their mouths yawning open, their eyes unblinking. She could see herself reflected in them, her terror mirrored back, her breath shuddering. The creature reached toward her, its fingers brushing her skin, and in that moment she felt it. The hunger, vast and endless, gnawing through her veins, curling around her bones, sinking into her mind. She screamed again, but already her voice was fading, joining theirs. The last thing she saw was her own body seated in the pew, shoulder to shoulder with the villagers, her mouth split open in an impossible grin. Her eyes glassy, her throat moving in rhythm with theirs, chanting words she did not know but could not stop speaking. And if you walk the valley now, if you follow the river and the mist parts just enough to reveal rooftops jutting from the fog, you might hear her voice among them, softer than the rest, newer, calling gently, almost kindly, begging you to come inside because the village is always starving and it always needs another.